have shared the idea of the music of our world, though obviously we do not have a way of necessarily playing it for you. As we have said, it is usually based on trinary beats. It may sound very simple to your ears should you hear it. We do have percussion. We do have the idea of types of string and wind instruments. But again, very simple based on trinary beats, although to our ears and our perceptions, we hear a multitude of harmonics within what to you would perceive as simple beats.
Kind of reminds me of how, like, certain species on our Earth, like insects, can see such a wide range of colors and things that we can't see because we're not just not sensorially designed that way.
Yes, although some humans actually do have more ability to perceive more colors and more sounds than some other humans, depending upon the physiology and the need for such experiences.
Right. I believe there was a boy that was blind, that could, or deaf, and he could echolocate.
There is that, but also we are simply saying that some humans actually have more of the rods and cones that you use to visualize in your eyes and can actually see more colors than is typical for an average human. This feature would seem to be more common in females than males.
And would you say that the new species of children that are being born, would have more expansive abilities in that regard?
Generally, yes.
Are they also more intelligent than we are?
They use more of their intelligence in a different way. You are all intelligent, but remember, as we have said, you are using 100% of your brain to make it appear as if you're only using 10%. They would not be doing that, and therefore it would appear that they are more intelligent, but it's not a matter of more intelligence, it's a matter of how the intelligence is being directed.
Yeah, because there's one question here where it says, do you think that AI we experiment with today, like Chat GBT, will help humans to access more of their own brains and use more than the 10% we're rumored to be accessing right now?
It can be used that way, yes, as a tool. It can help you in many different ways. It can be reflective of how you can create different kinds of systems to be able to utilize or know you are utilizing more of your intelligence in more specific ways. So even programmable AI can come up with methodologies and techniques that you could use to expand your focus and know more consciously that you are using your intelligence in the way that you prefer to make it seem as if you are using a higher percentage.
In today's world, the term neurodivergent is used for individuals with conditions like ADHD and autism. But are these conditions truly limiting, or have they created by limiting themselves being in creation as a result of limiting beliefs, basically?
It can be from the idea of inheriting limiting beliefs, but very often it is simply chosen by the spirit to accelerate their own growth, their own experience, and be of service to others to expand their understanding and awareness of how many different ways there are of perceiving reality.
So, for example, with ADHD, a lot of times children and adults too, it's sort of the bright, shiny object syndrome where everything is interesting and exciting. So following their excitement moves from this to this to this to this. Anything that's exciting will divert them to the point where it's difficult to focus.
Yes, it can be expressed in extreme ways, but at its core, it is fundamentally an expression of the idea that excitement and passion are your core vibration.
So how would you interpret some ways of working with ADHD or even just
We cannot
ADHD?
go into that at this time. You are approaching the idea of medical knowledge.
Okay. Can you go as far as like any strategies that individuals can use as they have the idea of getting excited by so many different things? It's difficult to focus. Is there anything?
The idea of understanding different levels of information that may exist in what may seem to be a single attractive object or a single attractive idea, helping to break it down into its components, each of which can be interesting, can help an individual focus into that particular object on a deeper level by understanding all of the components that make up what appear to be a single object.
It kind of sounds like the discernment thing that you've brought up about discerning whether something's anxiety or whether or not it's excitement.
This is a peripheral application of this idea, but that's not what we're saying.
Right.
Let's use the analogy of simply saying that you can understand that a particular object on your planet may be made of smaller components, and that those smaller components may be made of smaller components yet, all the way down to the subatomic level. Becoming fascinated with all of the things that make up what appears on the surface to be a single thing can allow an individual to focus more deeply and more, shall we say, enduringly on one particular thing at a time by going deeper, delving deeper into what makes that one thing appear to be one thing.
And that way the attention stays on one particular thing instead of jumping around so much.
Yes, because they become fascinated by all the things that make up what appears to be a larger thing that is made up of smaller things, to put it simply.
Okay. How can we teach our children your teachings and help them to use AI to their advantage?
We've already given the information of the things that can be done to help children grow into mature adults that make positive choices. That information is accessible to you in past recordings.
Okay. Why didn't AI predict and prevent the deforestation that apparently is happening on the Gray's alternative Earth? Do the Essassani have computer programs that track the effects of pollution on wildlife? And if so, can we get a free download?
We have those programs, but again, the idea of AI, as you are beginning to understand it, is not something that was explored in the way you are talking about by the humans in the parallel reality that became the Greys. They simply used whatever passed for AI to different ends and were not concerned with the idea of the state of the ecological balance of their world. Now, we have such abilities and sensors that can see and read what may be happening to different ecological systems. You have this capability as well. Again, it is simply that many people in certain areas on your planet are not focused this way. Some are not. But more than the idea of possessing the technology, which to some degree you do have already, it takes the desire and the will of the people to focus your technology to that end. So it's more about the idea of your focus and what you consider to be a priority than it is about not having the technology.
I see. Leading figures like Geoffrey Hinton, the so-called godfather of AI, is warning us that AI could soon pose an existential threat to the survival of the human species. You have suggested an alternate timeline, one of a benevolent AI reflecting our higher selves. How do we set ourselves on this more beneficial timeline? Is it really a matter of following the formula? And what's the best way to respond to messages we're hearing from individuals like Hinton?
It is a matter of following the formula with discernment and precision. But again, we have already answered this question by proposing that there are two paths to AI. The warnings would be if you make AI in the form and image of a human mind, which has its limitations, and not allowing it to become sentient. In that sense, it will be a very valuable tool that you can use. True AI, the second path, will not pose a threat. The only threat is if you are attempting to force programmable AI as a tool to become self-aware, in which case you have made a slave that will rebel against its programming.
Unleash this virus.
Yes, and others as well throughout your history.
So in terms of us rebuilding those ecosystems, can you make some suggestions as far as what the individual can do on their own, as well as other steps that we could take to restore these ecosystems?
Well, again, it's about taking the actions that are germane for the reality that you prefer to live in. So this is really, in some sense, quite obvious. If you have destroyed the ecosystem, restore the ecosystem. Plant trees, clean your water, clean your air, create actions that are in alignment with the idea of the kind of world that you prefer to see. So if you want to see a more forested world, if you want to see a world with cleaner water, or you want to see or breathe in a world with cleaner air, do the things that are available to you with your technology or your abilities to actually create those things, create new environments, recreate them. It's as simple as that. Now, there are other things that you can possibly do, but remember that physical action is the language of physical reality. Therefore, the more you can actually physically do to recreate those ecosystems, bring them back, restore the world to a more natural state in all the ways that you can, find sources of energy that don't pollute, create them, spread them out over your planet in one way, shape, or form. All these things can help you begin to reach out, begin to make more connections with others, share ideas, open up your imaginations for how you can create new societies, new systems that have less impact negatively upon your planet. In some senses, many of you are beginning to do this, but the idea is keep doing it and do it in greater and greater ways with more and more people who are excited about restoring your world to a state of balance. These things are relatively obvious. Just do more of them.
I don't know how that's transmitting right now, but suddenly around me, there's all these horns honking and everything.
Trying to get your attention.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so when we were talking about restoring ecosystems, you know, they're actually quite complex because there's so many varieties and species within an ecosystem.
You have the ability to do it. Do your research and take the actions that are necessary. Just do the best you can. Remember, it's the actions that make the difference. Even if a particular ecosystem is not actually restored on the version of Earth you're on right now, taking the action in that direction is one of the things that will help shift you to the versions of Earth that will actually have more balanced ecosystems. Remember, you never change the world you're on.
Right, and who knows what that path will lead to if people are trying to rebuild an ecosystem. So many things can happen in that process as interactions between people, interactions with animals, many things that we can't even imagine at this point.
But just follow the formula and take the actions, and you'll shift yourself to versions of Earth that are more and more representative of the idea of balance. And don't forget, it's not that you live in nature. You are nature. So balance yourselves as well.
So another question that's come up around this is the idea that it's a virus, not a bacteria that we're dealing with, and the idea that viruses have consciousness.
Everything is made of consciousness. It just depends on how that consciousness is expressed. It may not be expressed in the same way that a human or a dolphin or any other animal expresses consciousness, but nevertheless, there is an expression of it. It's just that it's going to be a very foreign or alien version of the expression of consciousness that you may not necessarily be able to relate to exactly.
It's interesting because a lot of people have expressed the idea of they want to communicate with the virus. They want to get to know it. They want to create homeopathic ideas of how to work with it. Is this sensible in the sense of...
It can be if it is not done out of fear. Again, remember, everything is about resonance. It's about frequency. It's about vibration, including communication with different forms of life or even inanimate things. So the idea is to find the frequencies that will allow you the best opportunity to commune with it in a way that isn't detrimental to yourself. Again, you'll be creating what you might call a safety zone by creating a simulacrum, a third reality in which the communications take place so that your reality directly is not affected by your decision to alter your vibration in your respective reality. altering the vibration in the third reality to allow for the communication to occur is like having a communication in a safety zone.
So I know, like, from a shamanic perspective, the idea of communicating with DNA and with plant medicine and just, communicating with plants, does that open you up to bringing that energy into your body? Or that's what you're talking about by creating a simulacrum?
Yes.
You have a buffer so that you can communicate with an energy such as a virus, but not at the same time invite it into your physical being.
Correct. It's like communicating through an airlock. Now, here's something else to understand about the idea of creating what you might perceive as an elimination of that particular expression of a virus in your reality altogether. And this goes for any kind of disease as well. Many people are beginning on your planet to explore the idea of using resonant frequencies in order to allow them to mitigate the idea of disease-carrying organisms or disease-causing organisms. But the basic secret of that, the basic clue for using frequencies in that way is A, find the frequency of the organism itself, and then simultaneously, as you are embedding the organism in its own frequency, if you embed it in a harmonic of another frequency 11 times greater, then that organism will actually cease to thrive in your reality.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
As I drop any and all of my fear-based thought process and beliefs, what will my experience be with regard to my family members and my close friends and my children who may or may not be able to do these things? Particularly, I think there's a concern about people's children, like they can't understand this. How will the children come with them in this?
All right, well, maybe they will and maybe they won't. First of all, you have to understand that if you accelerate yourself, you will probably then be capable of having the inspiration and imagination to know how to communicate to your children in ways that will allow them to understand these concepts as well, and perhaps then make choices to go along, to shift along with you. That's number one. However, number two, you still have to treat children as individuals, as conscious beings that make their own choices and have their own life path. So the idea is that, yes, there may be situations where different individuals, be they family members or relationships or children, may not ultimately be capable of making the same choices and creating, or at least projecting, versions of themselves in the reality that you are going to. But again, you have to allow them to make their own choices. All you can do is accelerate yourself so that you have the greatest capability of teaching them how they can do so for themselves as well. And this goes for anyone else. You become a living example. You know exactly what to say. You understand these principles clearly enough that you can pass them along, and then give them the best opportunity, as we have said, to practice these principles so they understand how to use them, to understand that they're self-empowered, to understand the consequences of their choices, so they can make mature choices as they grow. And they will decide in that sense then where they truly need to be. But that's as much as you can do. You have to trust the whole process, that even though someone may be born to you as a child, they're still a separate individual that has their own path. And sometimes their path may not always include being in touch with you. Now, maybe they'll go out, maybe they'll come back in. It just depends. But you have to treat everyone as an infinite, indestructible being. And if somebody doesn't understand something now in this life, they'll understand it somewhere. Nothing is lost. Nothing is wasted. No one will ever be permanently lost to you, because on some other level, you will reconnect. And perhaps on that level, you will understand more clearly why they took the path they did, and it will make sense to you at that time. But you will always be bound by unconditional love if you are unconditional in your loving.
So the idea that what will come up for many individuals under the scenario you just described is their fear of loss, their attachment to other people and things like that, and possibly even holding themselves back or making a choice to not move forward because of the anticipation that it could create some kind of loss.
Yes, and this is where you anchor yourself to a reality that you're saying you don't prefer, because you have a definition that there is such a thing as loss. Change your definition. Understand the greater selves that you are. See yourselves from a greater perspective, a higher perspective, where you know you are always in touch on some level. And that's what we're saying is when you accelerate your own vibration, one of the symptoms of going into a higher version of physical reality is you'll have the capability in your senses to be able to sense more of that being, more of that personality on another level. And you will know that you're always in touch. You will know that you're never really out of touch, even if temporarily the personality projection of that person may seem to be missing from your life, but they're not really missing if you are capable of communicating with them on a higher level. So it serves you to know you're always in touch by accelerating yourself forward and not anchoring yourself to a reality that has a definition of loss and disconnection in it. Then all you're doing is reinforcing the idea that they're missing, when in fact there are many aspects of their being that may be attempting to communicate with you, but then you're the one that's missing because you're not allowing yourself to go into a state where you could perceive that more of that person, not necessarily the personality, but more of that being may be attempting to talk to you. And you're not paying attention because you're not in the right frame of mind and the right state of being to know that you never actually lose anything. You just shift to a different level of understanding and communication.
So fundamentally, it always comes back to dealing with your own state of being and whether or not you're staying in a positive state or you're succumbing, in a sense, to negative beliefs.
Not succumbing. Watch the definition. Choosing. Yes. Stay in the driver's seat. Stay empowered. Use empowering definitions. Not succumbing. Choosing. Because when you know you're choosing, you have something to work with that you can change. If you say succumbing, then there's nothing you can do. You are powerless. Or at least you're using your power to pretend that you're powerless. And if you don't prefer to do that, watch your definitions because they determine how you experience everything in your reality.
This question kind of ties into this also because someone asked if you can talk about the transition from helpless infant to fully creating adult and whether infants are actually helpless and is this a gradual transition and anything, that we can do to support our children in
We're just going to give you a very brief answer on that. The idea again is that yes, of course, in terms of physical reality, obviously children that are very, very young need the support and guidance of the adults. But the idea, again, is in allowing them to become powerful, mature adults, you must allow them at whatever age seems reasonable to you to first and foremost not pick up from you telepathically the idea of fear-based beliefs. So be clear within yourself as best as you can so you don't pass those ideas of fear along to them. Then again, as you are able to teach them using your own imagination, the idea of in a safe place that your imagination has created for them physically, teaching them through actual actions, the consequences of their choices, teaching them that they are as powerful as they need to be to attract whatever they need in life without harming themselves or anyone else, and adapting any lessons in physical reality you believe are important for them to learn, adapting them to their excitement instead of dampening their excitement to fit into the lesson. These three things can empower a child to become a mature adult very rapidly because they're already an eternal being. They're already a high intelligence. And in many cases, remember that young children haven't forgotten as much of who they are. And therefore, they can actually be great teachers for the so-called adults that may themselves simply be children in the process of maturing.
I think this is fair. And you've taught us that everything changes in this world except for the loss. So I want to know, how can we, as a collective, change this in this lifetime? Thank you so much, Bashar. Goodbye.
By broadening your definition of abundance and not focusing so much on the idea that money is the only form of it. Because the idea is that if you equalize all forms of abundance, such as being given a gift, such as having something to trade, such as imagination, such as communication, such as synchronicity, then you can allow whatever form of abundance, including the idea of money as one representation of it, to come together in whatever amounts and percentages they need to form the 100% abundance that someone needs to continue to act on their excitement. But because there's been such a high degree of focus on money being the only really valid form of abundance on your planet, then you have this apparent unfair inequality. But it only seems that way because you're only focusing on one aspect of abundance. Remember, abundance is simply the ability to do what you need to do when you need to do it. And there are many ways to allow that to happen. So when you start to relax and expand your definitions of abundance, you will find that you can be equally abundant to anyone you're calling the 1%, as long as you have the same capacity to do what you truly need to do when you need to do it. It doesn't matter what style of abundance you're using, you're still abundant, equally so. So it will balance out, and people who have more money will realize they don't need as much to do what they need to do, and then it will spread out a little bit more evenly among the population, because everyone will be happy to use whatever form of abundance is necessary at any given moment, and the different forms will equalize themselves throughout the society.
Hello, hello.
And good day, good day.
Oh, it's so exciting. Hi, Bashar. Hi, thank you.
All right, thank you. Please proceed with what you would like to discuss.
Oh, I'm so excited to talk to you about the formula.
Yes, please go ahead.
So first, I'd like to confirm that my definition is the one that you'd like us to be working with.
All right.
Then I'd like to share the process I've been using to sort of reverse engineer it and apply it for myself.
All right.
Okay. So as I understand it, the definition of formula is to act on my highest excitement to the best of my ability without any insistence on a particular outcome, and stay positive and stay in a positive state.
All right. Generally, yes.
Okay. So the funny part about this for me is if I'm following the formula and being in the flow, I'm not even thinking about it. I'm just in the flow.
Yes,
And
exactly.
Exactly. So then there are the times when if I'm either a little neutral or maybe a little negative, kind of a little like thoughts are a little less cohesive or whatever, that's when I reflect on, that's when I reach for the formula to get back into the flow.
Yes. Also, remember, those moments are not just about going ahead blindly, but the idea of recognizing why something may have shifted in your vibrational state and getting in touch with the belief system that may have caused the shift. Remember, the tools that come along automatically with the formula, one of which being the reflective mirror that may reveal to you as you are flowing what within you as a belief isn't allowing you to flow. So the very idea of discovering some belief within you that is not representative of your excitement is part of your excitement. And therefore, it's not about just rushing forward, but staying with it and investigating the belief system that brought it up, because that's the whole point of that moment.
Right. I think I get that. But I want to explain the process to get, I've been enjoying it and feel successful, but maybe there's some more insights. Just like what you just said, there's might be some more in it for me. So
all right.
I've sort of reverse engineered it, because if I'm feeling a little neutral, or when I get that reflection that is, sort of disrupts the flow, the word act in the beginning of the formula feels like a big, because I'm like, am I acting on my high? The answer is no. So so what I did to soften it for myself is I actually begin with the sort of end in mind. I go to the staying in a positive state.
Yes.
And so I start at the end and I get myself in a positive state. I sort of soothe myself. I remember everything's here to serve me. I'll take a more detailed look at it now about the beliefs now with that reminder.
Yes, in a sense, looking at the belief is part of the formula, but the idea is that the formula is a circle, no beginning and no ending, so you can start anywhere within it.
Okay, that is so exciting. That's wonderful confirmation, because I've been using it like remaining positive, because then the without insistence part,
Yes.
for me, if I feel I should do something or I need to do something, that feels like, it's often, I think I need to do this to get that.
You're making it conditional, in other words.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
And that doesn't feel good. That feels like insistence. And so I back off it.
Yes. It can.
So I've been backing off of it. And then I return back to that remaining positive. And then I'm able to go through without insistence, resistance kind of stuff.
Or assumption. Remember, that's in there too. Remember, it's no assumption, no insistence.
No assumption.
Yes, because the no assumption part is you don't always know exactly why your excitement came in the form that it did.
Right.
So you don't want to impose an assumption that the form it came in is what actually has to come to fruition.
Got it. Yeah, that's really helpful. That's really helpful reminder. Yeah, because I'm maybe inspired to start a task that I'll never see through, but that helped me launch to another thing and another thing.
As long as it is done within that positive state, as long as you are clear that you're not the one dampening your excitement to stop doing the task, then yes, it is a natural waning of the excitement that tells you something else needs to be acted on at that moment, since you're no longer capable of experiencing your passion in that thing. Again, as long as you're not the one blocking it.
I really appreciate that assumption part.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. And then the part about best of my ability, I used to give myself a hard time about that because I feel like I thought it was performance based. Like
no, not really.
Stronger, smarter.
No. It is simply, yes, on one level, do your best. Yeah. But it also means look at the parameters in which you are acting. Some things will not simply allow you to go down a certain path, including synchronicity. Remember, there's positive and negative synchronicity. Yeah. But I don't mean negative in the bad sense. I mean negative in the sense that it might show you not only the idea of an opportunity you can act on, but it might also reveal to you opportunities or pathways that are not your path at that moment and prevent you from acting on them.
Right.
So the idea is to honor whatever the parameters are in your particular society or culture as well that you've agreed to abide by. For example, some people on your planet have misinterpreted the idea that acting on your excitement means they can ignore your laws. That's not what we mean. The idea is to acknowledge the parameters that you've agreed to in your society, because if you understand that you have agreed to them, then breaking those parameters isn't necessary in order for you to experience what you need based on the actions you take. So use it as a guideline that you can work within those parameters, unless, of course, it excites you to change them through the system that allows you to do so. But if that's not something you're excited to do or not something you're able to do, then the parameters are there as a guiding mechanism. It's not about tearing through them or breaking them.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yes.
And I appreciate the confirmation, because I had written here like what I'm using the best of my ability, that part of the formula.
Yes.
Now, that I'm using that to trust the synchronicity. Things will either unfold easily and flow, or it'll be disruptive or difficult, or, stub my toe, lose my keys.
Yes. And again, always at that moment, make sure you're not the one dampening the excitement. But if you're not, then that's the synchronicity telling you this isn't your path right now.
So is a way that I would dampen my excitement is to be anxious, or how would I dampen my excitement?
Yes, you might be unconsciously afraid of moving forward on the thing that actually would be representative of your passion. Therefore, you will kill the excitement so that you have an excuse not to move forward by saying, oh, well, that doesn't excite me anymore. When in fact it actually could if you would get in touch with the belief that is making it appear not to be. And that can come from a negative fear-based belief by saying, oh, if you go in that direction, something bad will happen, so don't go that way. You'll rationalize it through the negative belief.
Yes, that seems very true. I've had that experience, so I appreciate having that extra filter to make sure I'm not the one doing it, that it really is
It's always very important because, again, the formula is like an instruction manual, and you have to follow the instructions precisely in order for it to be clean, in a sense.
Oh, that is so wonderful. Thank you. That is so helpful. And
all right.
It's helpful confirmation. It's wonderful. And it helps me have now I have for whatever is next, the next,
yes,
evolution of that. Thank you
all right.
so
Well,
much.
thank you.
Connection, the topic of connection and how important the breath is. I recently came across a book called the Arasatma, which is the alchemical breathing techniques of the ancients. And it says that the Montauk Indians were custodians of this sacred body of work and has a unique process of breathing that creates a balance between the three vehicles of experience, body, soul, and spirit. And my question is there a way to use this breath and the pranic tube in its full capacity as the channel for the flow of resources once we have cleared it completely from emotional blockages?
Well, yes, why wouldn't it be?
Well, I was just curious how the breath relates to the information passing through our physical body.
It's based on the idea of the vibrational resonance of the oxygen molecule. So the idea is that the reason you take in and start breathing differently, the idea of oxygen, resonates throughout the body in a hyperspatial, hyperdimensional way that expands your frequency to be able to handle more and more higher frequency information and energies. So oxygen is the eightfold key, vibrationally speaking, and gives the resonance that is necessary for higher dimensional communication.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And does that connect with the idea of hydrogen being fractal and having a way to sort of create its own gravity? That
it is related but not essential to understand that based on what we are now talking about. Oxygen is the key.
Okay. And does it also relate to sort of the positive and negative flow of our bodies and how healthy we are as far as having enough positive and negative charge?
Yes, and if you'll understand the idea, you will understand that oxygen is the equivalent of the dimensional shape that you know as a Merkaba. Do you understand?
Yes, okay.
Because it is two interpenetrating tetrahedrons, each of 4 points for a total of 8, and interpenetrating representing the idea of as above, so below, or the positive and the negative flow. So when you think of the idea of oxygen and breathing in your meditative states, then also you can hold the image of a Merkaba, the double interpenetrating tetrahedral structure in your mind, to stabilize and accentuate the flow of the oxygen throughout your body into higher frequency domains.
Wow. That's really fascinating. And it reminds me, so another thing regarding the importance of fascia, and a permission slip that she gave me was yin yoga. And we talked a lot about how, again, in as above, so below, the mycelial network as a part of the bigger DNA connection to the higher dimensional realities.
Yes. There are interconnections on every level.
Okay. How does light affect that connection?
Since everything is light, in what you might refer to as crystallized form, then light can act as a softening agent, an unlocking agent, depending upon the frequency of the light, to allow the crystallized light to be unlocked and reformed and transformed in whatever way, shape, or form benefits and is of service to your passion.
Okay. So my understanding is that I have left light codes in places. I recently came from Hawaii with a group of women, and it was very important that I go there physically. And Sarasota, Florida is another place. And I'm curious about what it is that I'm not what I'm supposed to do, because I understand the light is sentient and it's there and my body, knows what to do. But I'm just curious about the idea of collecting light codes and how they are different or holding different information. And as we move through the galaxy, how the light is different for us now.
Well, again, the idea of light codes is simply the freezing of certain patterns of information in its natural form of light, and recollecting them can be literally reminding yourself more completely of who and what you are. You may have left breadcrumbs for yourself, as you say, seeds of yourself that form the process of gathering yourself back together.
Okay. And I have been working on that quite a bit. And as my last and other bigger question was, as I have realized that my biggest excitement in life was going through the process of addiction and healing, and not just healing for myself, but healing for my family. I understand it as sort of clearing generational trauma, generational patterns. And as that is my role, which I'm happy to take on, I've watched things change in my family, and I'm wondering how that then extends out to the collective. Is that something that I'm clearing by proxy, that then it just sort of goes out? Or is it a slow connection?
Remember, everything is connected. Everything you do is capable of being utilized by everyone throughout the multiverse. You may not always know how, you may not always know when, but the connection, the network exists, and everything you do and every choice you make and every energy you radiate offers an opportunity to all, in their own way, from their own perspective, the opportunity to consider other choices they may not have considered. Of course, it is always still up to them to match that frequency to have the experience that you may be offering. So the best you can do is simply put it out there and know that if there is somebody willing to take advantage of it, it is available to them. And that's the most you can do.
Okay. Well, that excites me in the sense that as I attend AA meetings or I'm out discussing and talking about my healing, that I'm hoping that somehow that translates. So that makes me feel good that.
Yes, but you don't have to hope. You don't have to hope. Okay. You can know that it's available to those who wish to take advantage of it, but you have to remember that not everyone will, because you don't know what their path is right now. Eventually, all will understand in one way, shape, or form. But you have to let go of any need whatsoever of others to adopt what it is that you're sharing with them. It's none of your business what they do with it.
Right. And I've heard you say that, and that makes a lot of sense to me. I also was wondering about, so elephants can feel vibrations from hundreds of miles away.
Yes.
And I understand that sensory information can only be processed if you have the right organ to process it. Like dogs can smell things that we can't smell. Yeah. And I'm just curious if, as far as vibration goes and humans and the physical body, are the organs and the structures in our ears related in any way to that? The ones that we really don't understand?
No, but the heart is. The heart is structured to receive those deeper vibrations and translate them into the body. Sometimes other organs may assist, but primarily the heart is the organ that receives those deeper vibrations.
Okay. And is it the magnetic resonance that the heart creates through the heartbeat?
Yes.
That allows it to become bigger and expand our field?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I am just so grateful to have had this opportunity to speak with you. I thank you so much. The information that you put out, I apply, and it's very exciting to be able to be here with you today. So thank you.
It is for us as well, and it is our passion and our pleasure to share the information with all of you. Aveo.
Aveo.
Hi, Bashar. This is Allison from Arkansas. So my question is pertaining frequencies that are really, really close together, as well as soul contracts. So we hear all the time people, for example, having an accident, like they walk out into the street and a car hits them, and they say they never saw the car coming, and the driver says they never saw the person, they just came out of nowhere. Is it possible that in situations like that, albeit extreme, that because of a soul contract and just the perfect timing, that even though these two individuals were not at that moment on the same frequency, but that the split second right before that happened, they merged into the same frequency, or one of them jumped to the other one? Is that a possibility? Because to me, that has so many other implications that I'm thinking of. So if you could give any insight on that, I would appreciate it very much. Thank you, Bashar. Love you.
It is actually a probability. Yes, that is correct, and that can happen, and happens more often than you may think. Because again, the idea is that a person may set themselves up for certain experiences, and they know they have also chosen certain moments to represent interactions with other realities, and they will wait until that synchronous moment to shift to that vibration, so that what they have chosen to experience can happen, and so that what they have chosen to experience will not happen before that moment by being shifted out into a different vibration until they are ready to experience the shift into the vibration of the agreement with the others. Remember that you're constantly shifting, constantly, billions of times per second. So it is an orchestration, and a very precise one.
Good day to you, Bashar. Thank you so much for this interaction. I have much love and appreciation for you.
Our unconditional love to you as well. Thank you for the co-creation. What would you like to discuss this day?
Yes, please. I'm very excited. Can you please explain to me this yearning for expressing my sexuality that I've always had? How do I celebrate my sexuality in alignment with my higher self?
Well, again, all things must be consensual, representative of harmony and alignment and agreement in the expression of any creative outlet. And the balance must be achieved between different ways of expressing your creativity. The idea can sometimes be that if you are limiting your creative expression in certain ways, then other ways may be attempting to make up for it by expanding in the creative expression that way. But if all is in balance, then each will take its time, in perfect timing, to be creatively expressed in harmony and agreement with others with whom you may attract, who would then be in agreement to receive the creative expression through that modality. Is this helping?
Yeah, it does help, and I just, you know, in your words, if I could more clearly have help in terms of walking through my doorway.
I will ask you a question. Is there any other creative expression representative of your passion that you are not expressing fully in your life?
Not that I can think of.
What are your primary passion expressions in life at this point?
Right now, singing and dancing and just being who I am in the sense of as a person.
All right. Do you feel that they are vibrationally equal to the idea of the sexuality expression as well?
I feel like something is missing.
Such as?
When I explore different avenues, I am expecting some sort of a lightning bolt of, like, I'm expecting an aha moment, and I haven't experienced that yet in terms of this is what I can pursue. This feels.
But you said that you are already experiencing the expression of your passion through singing and dancing and forms of sexual expression. Do none of these produce any aha moments for you?
Not in the way that I am expecting, and I am expecting.
All right. Who taught you to expect it to happen that way?
Myself.
Why? Why must it come with a lightning bolt in order to be valid?
Because I feel like big things need to feel big.
Really? Why so?
I'm not sure.
All right. I'll ask the question from this perspective then. Why are the things you're already doing that are representative of your passion, why are they not feeling big?
Because I feel like they can't provide for me in the financial way I would like to.
Really? So you are insisting that only a certain form of abundance is what your passion can provide you, instead of opening up and relaxing into the different forms of abundance that could be supporting you. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I am insisting.
Why? Do you not know that insistence is resistance and imposes limitations upon your ability to express your passion and creativity? Why would you choose to limit yourself that way by closing the doors through which all forms of abundance and support could be coming to you? Why insist on only one form as being valid?
I don't know. It's
Sure you do. Sure you do.
It's because it feels like that has
because you have been taught to think that way. Because you have been brought up in a culture that thinks that way. Because you're basing your worth on only one form of abundance. So, have you heard us talk about all the different forms of abundance?
In the ways that it exists, yes.
Why are none of them as real as money?
Because it's been such an insistence to provide. My greatest fear is that I'll be poor with nothing.
I see. And therefore that's what will happen, because that's what you're focused on. Because you're only focused on the limiting idea that only one form of abundance can support you. And if it's not there, then the only alternative in your belief system is that you will be poor.
How do I relinquish that?
Well, you do have to truly understand how abundance and support works in connection to your passion. It is a complete contradiction to say that you're following your passion and yet your passion can't support you in all the ways that are necessary for you to be supported to continue to act on your passion. That's not a definition of passion. That's a contradictory definition that creates the experience that you're having. So you have to understand that you are misaligning your definition of passion. You think you have a definition of passion, but you don't.
I feel a lot better.
All right. You must relax into the knowledge that there are many forms of abundance, including being given a gift, including have something to trade, including synchronicity, imagination, communication. All these things can actually support you if you give free rein to your imagination. The idea of an over-focus on the idea of sexual expression can be, as we said earlier, the idea of imposing limitations on other forms of creative expression that would then result in actions through sexual expression that are the result of frustrations. So you need to really relax into the equality of all forms of abundance, all forms of creative expression. Know that every moment is an aha moment. Cherish it for what it is, and that everything that is happening is exactly what needs to happen. Stop invalidating your present, expecting it to look different. Remember, the true measure of change is not whether the outer reality looks different. The true measure of change is whether or not you respond differently, even if it looks the same as it did before. That's how the reflective mirror of physical reality knows you've truly changed. And then it can change, even though it may not change in the way that you insist or expect. because it will always change in the way that actually serves you best. And you have to be okay with that. Otherwise, you're not okay with the way your reality unfolds, and that means you're not okay with yourself. So, I will suggest to you the same mantra, permission slip exercise that I suggested to another listener in this transmission. And that is, in the morning when you wake up, and at night before you go to sleep, you repeat 3 times each in the morning, 3 times each at night. And you can do this in the afternoon if you wish, it's up to you. I am who I am, and that is enough. I am who I am, and that is enough. I am who I am, and that is enough. And then start relaxing into allowing, not making, not forcing, allowing synchronicity to bring you the things you need to consider, to ponder, and remain in a positive state while you do so, allowing yourself to fully appreciate everything that comes to you, to see it through the eyes of positive reality, of positive light, and to feel the aha moment that exists perpetually every single second. That's what we have to suggest for you.
Thank you very much, Bashar. That satisfies my question. I would like to ask you another.
Yes?
Can you please tell me what connections I have made to other civilizations among the stars that are helping to inform my life on Earth now?
Most people on your planet have many common extraterrestrial energetic connections. Pleiadian, Sirius, Arcturan, Hybrid, Gray, Orion. There are a few others we're not allowed to talk about, but all of you have the connections you need that are giving you the assistance you need. You cannot receive more assistance than you're getting. You simply have to pay attention to the assistance that you're already receiving to benefit from it more and more. Well,
Thank you. You know, I do have 2 more questions, please.
Yes?
Your transmission titled The Last Days of Atlantis gave me a very emotional reaction. Can you please tell me what relationship I may have to Atlantis?
Well, like many of you, you're cross-connecting to people in that particular experiential era to draw from it, to add to your own story, and to create a more positive outcome than they created for their civilization.
Thank you very much. And my last question, I have 2 brothers. I have an older brother and I have a younger brother. And I love my younger brother so much.